Like, who would say that? That we should bring kids to see blood and guts and lambs being slaughtered?
Welcome to our hen house. This is Jasmin Singer.
This is Mariann Sullivan.
And this is the Hen Report.
I moved my camera. Does everybody notice I looked completely different?
Well, I've noticed that Lulu dog
Yeah.
is now frequently in the picture doing her very slow old laps.
My cat Fox also is like, it's because I change things. I think they're very, very curious and a little disturbed and upset as they get, and they need to explore everything. And yeah, and Lulu's nails click.
That's
But,
okay.
you know, welcome to my world.
It's
Click,
nice.
click,
We are
click,
welcome
click,
to
click,
your
click,
world.
click, 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 click. That's my world.
All right, stop. This is boring for our listeners who are not our viewers. So I see you when you make faces at me now.
I do. That's why I make
Okay.
them.
So we have 3 separate podcasts now. Rising Anxiety comes out on Tuesday. The Hen Report, which is this, comes out on Thursday. And the long form interviews comes out on Fridays. We are, as I just mentioned, on YouTube. So please hit subscribe and like. All right. So I'm tired of saying I'm busy because everyone's busy all the time and I'm clearly addicted to being busy. But I had my monthly show, Environmental Connections, which I do on WXXI, which is our NPR station here, was this past week. And I just wanted to briefly mention it because I loved both episodes. And even though they weren't explicitly about animals, it did come up. And I wanted to just mention.
They were both about interesting topics, environmental topics, but not specifically about animals.
Except it did come up. So one of the episodes was about mushrooms and its role in climate healing and the possibilities and the ways that mushrooms are vulnerable. And then the other episode was about electric cars and why more people aren't driving them. And so I used to really tiptoe around this like Lulu is tiptoeing right now. But I'm just like, I'm going to bring it up whenever possible.
Good.
And I mean,
NPR is like disappearing anyway, so you might as well.
Oh, that's so sad. There's a
big lawsuit.
There is a current big problem right now. There's a lot of efforts to eliminate public media funding, and it's reached like an unprecedented level. If you are able to contact your legislators to voice your concerns about that and stand in favor of public media, I think that would be fantastic.
Mention Jasmin when you do it.
No, don't. Just don't. Don't say that. That's ridiculous. That'll make the measure pass.
I'm being silly, but actually that is really important to me. And I'm sure to many of our listeners.
Without the federal funding, a lot of member stations, WXXI, well, all member stations could lose the ability to deliver this kind of content.
It's not just WXXI in Rochester, it's everybody.
Local journalism, community programming, it's bad.
All right, let's move on to stuff that people are actually tuning in for.
I did have in my mushroom episode, one of the scientists who was on, at one point I brought up that I was a longtime vegan because we had the CEO of the mushroom-based meat, quote unquote, meat company, Prime Roots on. And so I mentioned I was a longtime vegan, and so did one of the scientists, which was
I'd love it when that happens. You didn't know that they were vegan?
No, and now that's starting to happen like almost every episode. I feel like
really
the last
cool.
several months. Yeah, it's super cool. So if people are interested, we'll link to it. You can watch it on YouTube or you can listen to it on podcast. So hopefully you'll have a chance to. I started to run this problem by you and you were like, let's talk about it on the air instead of just with us two. So I want to tell you that I have a friend and he is not a friend from animal rights circles, as you will figure out in a moment, but he's very supportive of me and like we have great vegan food together. He's cooked vegan food for me. I think he makes a lot of vegan choices in his life. He understands the ethos. He is very, very allergic to cats and he has 2 dogs and he decided to get some cats.
Why do people do, well, I know we have to tell this story, but why do people do that? Just like, I mean, cats are wonderful. I love having cats. But if you're allergic, like, get another dog. Get a goldfish. No, don't get a goldfish unless you rescue them. Don't get any animal unless you rescue them.
Of course. Moore takes allergy pills like every I mean,
Right,
it used to be every week for
but
years,
face
and now
the fact that
it's
that's what you have to do if
yeah,
you're
and
going to get
it's
an
hard
animal
and it
you're allergic to.
hurts.
And
Her arm,
for more, it wasn't really a choice. I mean,
I came with
she
cat.
accumulated a cat, and there you
Yeah,
were, and
yeah, but it's a commitment. But anyway, so this person really wanted a cat, and so with a lot of guilt that he told me about, purchased some quote unquote, hypoallergenic or low allergenic. I don't think there's an actual such thing as hypoallergenic. A particular breed that
thoroughbred cat. Right.
I had never heard of.
Idiots.
But
Also, I don't like this person.
okay, well,
I know that's a problem with my activism, that I'm very intolerant of people.
really, I don't think that our listeners had figured that out. So listen, I really like this guy. Like, we connect on a lot of levels. I know that I am a good influence in terms of the animal stuff and the vegan stuff. He was really nervous to tell me about it. Now it turns out that the allergies are acting up, even though he has these hypoallergenic or low allergenic cats. I struggle a little bit with this because my ability to compartmentalize is sometimes too good. And I don't know how much my ability to compartmentalize is a betrayal of myself. I want to stay friends with this person. And if I was not compartmentalizing, if I was not opting in to betraying myself on some level.
Before we get into like your personality and all of its quirks, what does he want to do? Or is he just telling you that this is a problem, or has he proposed that he's going to do something that you're expected to take a position on?
It's very clear to me that that is coming. He has not said it yet. He has not said it yet, but he's clearly getting there.
What this sounds like to me is the classic setup that we get put in all the time by people who use animals in one way or another, that they want forgiveness.
Either forgiveness or like a pass. Like, you know me, you know I'm really great. Like,
well, that's kind of forgiveness.
Yeah, I guess so. But
don't get mad at me for this.
There's forgiveness, but then there's also permission.
Yeah.
I think it's more the latter. Yeah. And like, that's one problem. But even if I abstain completely from that, which I have done in the past with other people, I remember having another friend who, like a few years ago, was in a similar position. And every time he brought it up, I didn't reply. Like, I just abstained from engaging about it at all. And so he kind of was like coming in harder and harder. And I just was like, look, I don't think we should discuss this.
All right, let's get back to the matter at hand.
Okay, so I just want to know, like, if it was you, I feel like you'd be like, all right, well, I guess this person's not my friend anymore. But I don't know if
I sound horrible. I mean, that's not good activism, really. I mean, what's the good activist? I think that just not being silent about it is not great activism. Mm-hmm. If you can come up with a way to state your position, try to like do an intervention that actually helps the cat. Is it one cat or two cats?
It's two cats.
Two cats. That helps the cats out, like, a suggestion that actually works. And, I don't think you have to end the relationship. Like, certainly you don't have to end the relationship. I don't think it's good to end relationships. But I also don't think it's good to just be silent. I mean, I think there's that fear, like, you're silent because you think, well, the person will end the relationship if I tell them what I really think. And I think that's the piece that you should examine. Because I think that we should speak our minds and, hopefully in a way that preserves the relationship, but most of all, that comes up with a good solution for the cats, which I don't know what it is. I mean, there's no good solution. These cats should not have been purchased in the first place, but at least that these cats end up in a situation that's, not horrible, and that you don't give the person a pass, even just through silence.
Well, I think that's half of it. But honestly, I think another part of it is, like, how deep does one want their friendship to be with someone?
Yeah, well, I think that's not something that's just up to you. I mean, if you're honest and they say, well, I hate you now, you're mean, that's their decision. You can't.
I'm talking about the part that's my decision, though. Like, what would you do in that scenario? Would you
I don't have friends.
Okay. Well, that's not true at all.
I mean, I would probably be silent. It's not like I'm courageous
here. That.
Well, it would depend on so many things it depends on the relationship. The relationship doesn't mean a lot to me. In some ways, that makes it easier to state your mind. I mean, I think I would state my mind. I would try to do it gently. I'm not sure I would
Okay.
succeed. But, maybe I'm giving myself more credit than I deserve. Until you're in the situation, it's hard to know what you would do. But I try to be a good activist, but I'm not. You talk about me being like outspoken. I can be very timid. It annoys me.
You can, except for I think that lately you're in a I have absolutely no more fucks to give
Age
place.
makes a difference with that.
I
Yeah.
mean, cue Patty
What are
the
they going to do
Clone.
to me? Yeah.
Like, I don't have to get into it. It's like a IKN. Wait, that's not how you spell it. If you know. IYK. Wow, I'm dyslexic.
What?
IYK. If you know, you know. That's like hashtag IYK.
No, you just said IYK, which is if you know, if you know.
Right, okay. IYK.
YK.
YK.
Well, that took a while to resolve.
It's because I'm a Gen Xer pretending
Anyway.
to be a millennial.
Anyway, let's move on.
But
'Cause
I'm
there's
so glad
much, there's really a lot of stuff going on this week, and we will be looking forward to hearing what you decide to do. Whether just because you state your mind doesn't mean that anything good is going to happen here. I think you stated your mind before this bozo got the cats. Like, why do people have to have cats if they're allergic to cats? It's just like people just think animals are there for them to like entertain themselves. It's just ridiculous. Get a cat for the cat's sake. It will make you so much happier if you rescue an animal. Every time you look at that animal for the rest of their life, you have that wonderful feeling. I'm a wonderful person. I rescued this animal. Don't people want that feeling?
I think that you're really hitting the nail on the head here, though, because this is the difference between like the vegan mentality and the non-vegan mentality, like in a nutshell, which is that
are we there for them or are they there for us?
There you go. There you go.
My other point is that when you adopt the mentality that we are there for them, it brings you more joy.
I agree. I completely agree, but I think that that's not just like a thing. It's not like a boom. It's like it's an evolution.
Obviously not.
For most people.
All right, let's move on because we have so much to talk about this week.
This is a groundbreaking moment in food history. Wild Types Cultivated Salmon is now officially on the menu in the U.S., so that makes it the first cultivated fish to reach restaurant plates. Where, you ask? I'll give you one guess. Portland, Oregon.
Well, that's where they're starting. But this is going to spread. I mean, that's just where they're starting. And then they're expanding to 4 restaurants across the country through 2025. This is an article from the Association for Meat, Poultry, and Seafood Innovation. I am so excited about this. I haven't seen it getting that much attention. But yeah, it's going on the menu. Sushi grade seafood. It's not like I miss this stuff. But I really miss like living in a world where I don't know that animals are being destroyed and tortured all the time. But the thing I'm really excited about, I don't think this is the first time cultivated protein has been on the menu, but this does seem to be like, it says it's the first cultivated fish for sale in the world. Fish is a really, really big menu item. And, there was that cultivated chicken that was on the menu for a while in New York, but I'm not sure it ever actually got on a menu. Anyway, this is exciting. And one of the reasons it's exciting is that, as you know, if you listen to the podcast all the time, which I hope you do, one of my hobby horses is...
not a vegan turn of phrase.
Well, it's a hobby horse. Doesn't that mean that it's wooden? I don't know. Anyway, getting to the point and not going off the point, which I know can be challenging.
That reminds me of the time. Just kidding. Go ahead.
All right. So the story of the fishes and the loaves. If you're Christian, you probably know this story. Even if you're not Christian, Jasmine, you sort of have heard this story. It's not like I know this stuff really well. And I'm not saying I'm religious. I am not taking a position as to, preaching to Christians or anything like that. I'm just pointing out that there is this story. It's a beautiful story. I think it's when Christ gave the Sermon on the Mount and he had this huge crowd of people. And of course, they were very poor and they were very hungry because that was his following. And they had no food to feed them. And of course, who's going to pay attention to a great speech, no matter how great the speech is, if they're all hungry. And so there was this somebody had a couple of loaves of bread and somebody had, a few dead fish. And he told his people to feed them to the crowd, and it fed everybody, and everybody was full. Famous story, famous miracle. And I just think that that's what this is about. It's taking the cells of, I guess, dead fish, but I don't think most cell-based protein has to come from dead animals. It just has to come from animals. And I'm not saying that's irrelevant, but I'm just saying, like, whether they were dead or not, it's taking just a few cells and turning it into food that will feed millions of people. And this was foretold by Jesus Christ. Why is this not big news?
So are you saying that Jesus was basically predicting
Well,
cultivated
I'm
meat?
not, because I'm not a religious person. So I don't necessarily think that I think this story is a beautiful story, but I think of it more as myth than reality. But I understand other people think of it as reality. I don't think we all have to agree on everything. And I think whether you think of it as a mythical story or something that really happened, it still fits really well in a beautiful way. It's like it's fulfilling a prophecy.
It's pretty cool. I agree. I
Yeah.
think it's definitely something
I want
that
to
should
try it,
get.
though I'm not going to Portland. I mean,
I have no
Portland's across
interest
the
in trying
country.
it.
It would be a long trip. I just hope it comes to somewhere near here. And it's not like I'm dying. You know, I love vegan food, and I'm perfectly happy eating it for the rest of my life, but I want to try it just for the hell of it.
I would do that
You get
with
it? For the
other.
hell of it?
I got that was funny. I would do it with other things, but I just even when I ate animals, always hated fish. Like the taste. I would
Oh,
do it with other
yeah. I
things.
didn't hate it any more than anything else.
Let's go to a headline that's almost too bizarre to be true.
Yeah, no, it
Why
is too
don't you?
bizarre to be true. This is from the wonderful people at Free From Harm. It's actually just a reel. You know, they go to like industry events and legislative events and bring up inconvenient things like the animals, and they do unbelievable activism. We, of course, recently had Robert Grillo on the podcast, and they do amazing work. If you haven't listened to that interview, you got to listen to it. But you also have to check out, it's just a reel off of Facebook. So I kind of like wrote down what this guy said. He's the CEO of Superior Farms, which is a lamb slaughterhouse, charming. And he was at this meeting, an ag industry meeting, and he proposed that Superior Farms slaughterhouses should become the Disneyland of packing plants. Packing plants is what they call slaughterhouses. You know, meat. It always has the word plant in it, which I always think is ironic. They call it all sorts of different things. They just never call them slaughterhouses. All right. So this is his rationale. Quote: I mean, heck, kids play games that heads blow up, people's heads explode, blood and guts all over the place, all over the screen. Why not come and see the real thing? I mean, seriously, we could make more profits by tours. He is suggesting that they charge people for these tours, like $20, I think
Unbelievable.
he suggested, and then give them some lamb shank when they leave. So we could make more profits by tours than we could with our own hands, probably. I don't know. I think it's a good idea, but the reality is that we have to open up. Was he making a joke? Like, the audience was laughing. Was he making a joke? And if it was a joke, what was the joke? That this is so outrageous that it would be funny? Because I don't think that's what he was saying. I kind of think he thought it would be a good idea. He understood that other people would think it was outrageous, but he actually thought it was a good idea. And I think these people are very, very, like, really deeply mentally ill. I really do. Like, who would say that? That we should bring kids to see blood and guts and lambs being slaughtered? Like, this is sick stuff.
Honestly, that story is. I don't know if it's hard to believe. Like, I kind of think it's easy to believe because of that aforementioned mentality that we were talking about before, about like, if you're looking at it from the people's perspective, like from the perspective of whether animals are entertainment. We already know that slaughterhouses are places of enormous suffering for animals and enormous trauma for workers.
Apparently, they're also, very entertaining.
Well, making them tourist attractions isn't just morally bankrupt, but it's a way to, keep people desensitized and keep the industry's violence, out in the open, but stripped of
Yeah.
its tragedy. And
Yeah.
I think that the laughing that you were just talking about, that's just rising anxieties, in my opinion.
Discomfort.
Yeah, it's crazy. Wow. That story is totally bananas. All right, what else?
Yeah,
do
and
we
I
have?
think it really highlights the incredible stuff that Free From Harm uncovers that more people have to hear about.
Well, more people also have to hear about this story, which is a real gut punch, because 5 activists from Direct Action Everywhere, DXE, were arrested for rescuing 2 sick baby goats from a California dairy after months of investigating a so-called certified humane facility that's also, surprising, the nation's leading goat milk producer. And by surprising, I mean not even remotely surprising. So what they found was a site of suffering, of horrible, horrible suffering. Goats piled up, mothers with infected udders. This is not news to our listeners. Tell me about why you pulled this story out to chat about.
I mean, I don't think there's been an action from DXE like this lately that it resulted in arrests. The reason I found this particular report on this story, and it's the only one I found. It's not like I picked this out of the many reports. This is from a Fox outlet in Kings County, California. And I think that the reason it's so interesting and really hopeful in a way is that all of the information that you just gave about what happened here was from the news outlet. It was like unbelievably good coverage. I don't know, maybe the coverage will shift. But everything that you just said about how they violate the certified humane standards and they had been reporting them before and other stuff, cattle and dogs were seen interacting with dead piles. A veterinarian concluded there was a systemic management issue. They cited to the law prohibiting unnecessary cruelty to animals, all from this
Wow.
article. It's extraordinary coverage.
We need
So maybe that will shift as the industry and the county gets its act together and decides on its messaging here. But right now, really, really amazing work.
Yeah.
We'll have to see what happens with these people. Of course, they're now at risk of going to prison.
Ugh, gosh.
They quoted one of the activists and a California attorney involved in the action. Like, it's really unbelievable.
Yeah.
Great reporting.
There's this revealing and troubling expose from Wired. It turns out that the Animal Agriculture Alliance, which is a powerful lobbying group for big ag, has been funneling intelligence on animal rights activists directly to the FBI, effectively treating peaceful protest and animal rescue as terrorism.
Yeah, well, this isn't really new news, but there's a lot of new evidence, really a lot of new evidence. This is reporting from Wired. I hope it gets picked up by many outlets because this is pretty deep reporting. The name of the article is How the Farm Industry Spied on Animal Rights Activists and Pushed the FBI to Treat Them as Bioterrorists. And, you know, a lot of people listening probably are saying, well, yeah, we know that. But the world out there doesn't know it. And now there's a really lot of evidence on it. I'm just going to start by, it's a long article, but I'm going to read the intro or the beginning of it. Hundreds of emails and internal documents reviewed by Wired reveal top lobbyists and representatives of America's agricultural industry led a persistent and often covert campaign to surveil, discredit, and suppress animal rights organizations for nearly a decade while relying on corporate spies to infiltrate meetings and functionally serve as an informant for the FBI. The documents, mostly obtained through public records requests by the nonprofit Property of the People, detail a secretive and long-running collaboration between the FBI's Weapons of Mass Destruction Directorate. Weapons of Mass Destruction. Just think about that for a second.
Wow.
Whose scope today includes Palestinian rights activists and the recent wave of arson targeting Teslas, and the Animal Agriculture Alliance, a nonprofit trade group representing the interests of U.S. farmers, ranchers, veterinarians, and others across America's food supply chain. Since at least 2018, documents show the AAA has been supplying federal agents with intelligence on the activities of animal rights groups such as Direct Action Everywhere, with records of emails and meetings reflecting the industry's broader mission to convince authorities that activists are the preeminent bioterrorism threat to the United States. And it goes on from there. It talks a lot about the case against Zoe Rosenberg, which you're, of course, familiar with from our recent interview with her, and also talks about how this is a huge project with lots and lots of evidence. But I think, at least from this article, one of the things that we can glean from it is their big goal here. Their overwhelming goal is to try to tie bird flu and other diseases like Newcastle that their animals are suffering from, which they have caused, which they have been the reason it has developed and is putting the entire human population at risk. They're trying to blame it all on activists. And that's their goal. And, so far they're not succeeding. Let's hope that we stick with that. Loads of information in this article that I really suggest. And I just want to mention, not that I not that either of these interviews were about this specifically, but way back in 2016 on the 18th episode of the Animal Law podcast, I interviewed Ryan Shapiro and Jeffrey Light about FOIA. And of course, one of the ways that they got a lot of this information is from the Freedom of Information Act, which they had started working with way back then. And it's tightened up since then. It's really harder to get information than it was then. And also, my relatively recent interview on the Animal Law podcast, episode 101, with Will Lowry of Animal Partisan, who's also been working on this issue. And the name of that episode was The Case of the FBI at the Meat Conference. This is a long-term project, and they have a lot of power, and I think it's terrifying.
And you've
I
been
really
on
do.
top of it
This
for a
is
long time.
terrifying. Well, I'm not taking credit for that exactly, but yeah, we've been dipping into it. It's been an issue for a long time, and it's gotten immeasurably worse. And thank God, I mean, Ryan Shapiro is the person from that organization that is doing this basically and has uncovered all of this information. And this is an enormous, enormous amount of work. They've also tried to tie PETA into it. They're just trying to tie everybody into this idea that it's animal rights activists who are the cause of all of these diseases that they're spreading. This is evil, evil stuff.
I remember in Wicked when they started to do that with Elphaba and make her the evil one. She was just the one rescuing animals. You know, Wicked, the movie.
No, I know,
and
I know Wicked.
The
I just
musical
didn't-
that's about
you don't
animal
mean-
rights and
You don't
animal
mean
liberation.
disease. You just meant they were trying to tie in trying to blame the activists for what was going wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we end, let's go to a headline that's making a lot of people in the vegan community smile, and for good reason. There's a new study that was published in the journal Menopause. And I just want to say that the person who sent this to us, our friend, is a gynecologist, which I find lovely. Just another little layer to this story. So this new study in Menopause found that a low-fat vegan diet, even when including plant-based burgers and other processed foods, can slash severe hot flashes by 92% for menopausal women.
Slash flashes. That's what you said.
Slash flashes.
Okay.
And the study also
92%.
Yeah, the study also saw participants losing an average of 8 pounds over 12 weeks. And what I think is striking here is that the benefits didn't depend on the quote unquote cleanliness of the diet. Whether women were eating tofu and kale or Beyond Burgers didn't matter as much as whether the foods were animal free. So the researchers are speculating that plant-based eating helps reduce levels of advanced glycation end products, or AGEs, which can disrupt hormones and inflammation in the body. And I know that for so many women navigating the hot mess of menopause, this is a hopeful and accessible solution. And I'm just curious, Mariann, what was your experience with menopause as a vegan?
Yeah, well, I mean, the menopause was actually a long time ago. But yeah, one hot flash. And I'm kind of glad I had the one so I could experience what it was like, because it was awful. It really was. I have the greatest sympathy for women going through this, because it was like somebody had installed a furnace inside me and turned it on. But it was once, and it never happened again. And other than that, I didn't have any symptoms at all. You know, it's very fortunate. But apparently not just fortunate. I was both fortunate and vegan.
That's great. There's this hilarious, though heartbreaking in a way, video that's kind of gone viral about this woman who is at, it looks like some kind of a local sports event. Like, it looks like it's like Little League or something. And she's in the bleachers and her friend is recording her. This woman was bald. I think that she had alopecia or something. And she was having a hot flash and there was literal steam rising off her head. And like, she was laughing. Okay. Like, she was also like, what the actual, like, why is this happening again? But she was having a hot flash, and because of the temperature difference with like outside, there was steam coming off of her head.
That's pretty serious.
I know, right? Yeah. Okay. But I mean, that's good. She should go vegan. Well, for so many reasons. Okay. We are just about done, but I want to give a shout out to our interview that's coming out tomorrow, because we had a panel discussion with 3 different awesome activists who are working in the grassroots world. So they shared ideas for effective grassroots animal rights work. And these folks are James Hattersley of We the Free, Carrie LeBlanc of Compassion Works International, and Stephen Rao of Connect for Animals. I see you wrote this out phonetically for me. Thank you.
Right, because
I had a
struggled with
problem.
it, yeah.
Yeah. So contrary to what the industry would like you to believe, the grassroots in the movement is anything but dead. And this was a great conversation. So listen up, be inspired to change the world for animals with us. And this was available, by the way. We did have a selection of our flock live with us in the virtual recording studio. And we like to do that as a perk for our flock. Why don't you talk about our upcoming Flock Friday?
Yeah, this Friday we will be recording, and this will be released next week. We're recording it this Friday, but not releasing it this Friday. Our interview with internet star Natalie Fulton. If you're not watching Natalie on YouTube or wherever else, I guess Instagram as well. I watch her on YouTube. You have to, because she's so good. Like, her
She's
videos are really, really compelling. I love her activism. I'm really excited about this conversation.
I am too. We got an email recently from someone who we previously interviewed, who we greatly enjoyed. We still talk about that interview. Nicole, how do you pronounce her last name? You didn't write this out for me.
I think if I recall it was Schoenemann.
Nicole
Schoenemann or Schoen, but I think she said the actual way you pronounce it is Schoenemann. But,
Okay.
I'm sure she answers to either.
Why don't you tell us about...
All right, this was on episode 772. You might have caught it. And if you did, you already know about the Goat Conspiracy Sanctuary, which in my mind is the best name for a sanctuary that anybody has ever come up with. It's a former goat dairy farm that has been, quote unquote, transformed into this farmed animal sanctuary. It's in Bloomington, Indiana. They have about 110 goats. They have a lot of chickens as well. And if you happen to be looking for a new gig, they're looking for an executive director. And of course, you would have to be in Bloomington, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but not everybody is, looking to move unless you already live in Bloomington, which I understand is kind of it's a huge university town. It's where the main campus is for Indiana University. Okay, the primary responsibilities include education and outreach, administration, fundraising, and recruitment of hourly staff, interns, and volunteers. Animal care, they have a farm manager to do animal care, but you have to kind of understand it. And it sounds like an amazing sanctuary. I'll just read you their mission statement because it's quite moving. We care for previously farmed animals and provide care and a space where they can live out their own full, meaningful lives. We connect people with farmed animals so that they can develop deeper empathy and compassion for farmed animals.
Love
And their
it.
vision statement is, we envision a world where animals are not exploited for human consumption, fashion, or entertainment, where animals are protected and can live out full, meaningful, and natural lives, and where humans appreciate animals simply for being who they are. And if that sounds like something you would like to be a part of and you're looking for a new gig, for more information, you can go to thegoatconspiracy.com/work-at-gc.
We will also include it in the show notes for those of you who didn't catch that. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to Our Hen House on your favorite podcatcher, as well as on YouTube. And we would love it if you liked this episode. Actually, we would love it if you loved this episode on YouTube. But if you hit like, we would be really happy. And don't forget that you can follow us on all of the socials: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or Blue Sky at Our Hen House. Until next time, thanks for changing the world for animals.